You ever watch a magician burn his trick on stage? No secret left, just ashes and silence. That's what they tried to do to you. Erase you. Not kill you. No, that would have been easy. They wanted to disappear you, like you never mattered, never existed. Like your name was a glitch in their memory. Quiet removal, silent execution. One day, you're everything. The next, you're an invisible ghost in the same damn room you built for them. But here's the twist they never saw coming. Some people don't die in the dark. They build there. They thought silence would finish you. That if they pulled the rug, cut the wires, whispered the lies and stepped back, you'd fold into nothing. They forgot one thing. Fire doesn't die in darkness. It grows. Pressure doesn't break all men. Some of us, it carves us into something worse than they feared. You weren't the mistake, the fool, the extra piece they painted you to be. You were the threat, the reminder. You carried truth in your eyes and spine in your silence. And that scared them more than your voice ever did. People don't erase the weak. They erase the unforgettable, the ones they can't control. And that's what you were. A mirror, a reminder, a boundary. So they picked you apart, piece by piece, lie by lie, until even you started questioning yourself. Maybe I was too much. Maybe I cared too hard. Maybe I was the villain. Nah, you weren't too much. You were too real for a world addicted to fake love and convenient exits. You were loyalty in a world built on convenience. And that doesn't survive long in a pit full of cowards. Let me tell you something brutal. They never meant to love you. They just loved how you made them feel. You gave warmth to people used to cold, and they mistook you for a furnace, not a soul. You carried their pain, cleaned their mess, fed their emptiness, and they fed off you like vultures in suits. But when your flame dimmed, when you needed a fraction of what you gave, they vanished. Not because you weren't worth it, because you reminded them they weren't. So they tried to erase you, blocked, ghosted, lied, replaced you before the door even closed. Thought if they swapped you with someone dumber, louder, emptier, they'd forget. But memories don't die when you ignore them. They rot. And every time they try to laugh louder, love faster, fake harder, they'll hear you. In silence, in shadows, in the way the new ones never measure up. You are not easy to forget, no matter how quick they painted over your name. But now, here comes the sweet part. When they buried you, they forgot you were a seed. And you didn't just grow, you mutated, became the thing they can't touch anymore. You learned silence, not as surrender, but as a weapon. You rebuilt, quietly, brutally, with cold eyes and a sharper mind. And now, they're choking on the silence they hoped would drown you, watching you thrive in the ruins they left behind, watching you wear the ashes like armor, and don't you dare crawl back for closure. Don't knock on doors that were slammed in your face with a smile. Don't explain yourself to people who enjoyed misunderstanding you. You owe them nothing. Not your healing, not your growth, not your success. You rise in silence. Let them guess. Let them wonder. Let them feel the weight of your absence like a ghost that won't stop breathing down their necks. Because that's the real revenge. Not rage, not screaming, not proving them wrong on their timeline. It's showing up one day, different, untouchable, focused. And when they try to reach, you don't even flinch. That's when they realize they didn't break you, they built you. They tried to erase you. It backfired badly. Now sit with that silence and smile. You see, the funny thing about people is they think silence means weakness. They think when you stop calling, stop checking, stop explaining yourself, it means they've won, that they got the last laugh. But real power? It's not loud. It doesn't need to be. Real power is when your silence screams louder than their games. When your absence haunts them more than your presence ever did. And you learned that the hard way, didn't you? They mocked your loyalty, tested your patience, disrespected your love. And when you finally went quiet, they didn't know what to do. That's the thing. People expect you to beg, to react, to explode. They don't expect you to disappear and rebuild. They never understood that your silence wasn't weakness. It was a funeral, a burial of everything you used to be for them. You weren't quiet because you were scared. You were quiet because you were done. You stopped talking because words were wasted. You stopped giving because your hands were bleeding. You stopped forgiving because the knives didn't stop coming. And now you're not the same. You walk different, talk different, think colder. You don't just heal, you evolve. And while they sit there wondering if you still care, you're out here becoming the version of yourself that doesn't need to. Let's be real. They didn't want you healed. They wanted you hurt, but available. They liked you better when you were broken, dependent, reaching for crumbs they never planned to give. They liked the version of you that said it's okay when it wasn't. The one that forgave betrayals, smiled through pain, made excuses for silence. But that version died. And the version that's walking now, he doesn't beg. He doesn't chase. He doesn't explain why he left. Because the silence is enough. Because those who had you and lost you already know why. And that guilt, that hits harder than any goodbye ever could. They thought you'd stay stuck on the floor where they left you. But what they don't realize is rock bottom has one hell of a view. From there, you see the world without filters. You see people for what they are, not what they pretend to be. You see how many smiles were fake, how many I love yous were rehearsed. And once you've seen that, You don't go back. You stop asking questions. You stop expecting apologies. You stop waiting for them to get it. You just move in silence, in strength. And every step forward is a slap to the face of everyone who thought you wouldn't. They don't teach you this part in school, that healing is ugly, that growth is brutal, that sometimes the people you would have died for will bury you without blinking. But the lesson was clear. Stop handing swords to people who already cut you. Stop watering graves and expecting flowers. Stop explaining your worth to people who were never listening. They didn't erase you. They erased the access to you. And now they gotta live with that. Every win, every new level you reach, every smile they no longer get to see, it's all a quiet reminder. You messed up, and there's no way back. And let's not pretend it didn't hurt. You cried. You screamed. You questioned your worth. You doubted every damn thing about yourself. But look at you now, still standing. Scarred, maybe, but stronger. Quieter, sure, but colder. Wiser, unshakable. That's what happens when people try to destroy something they didn't build. They end up creating something they can't handle. That's you now, not the victim, not the forgotten, not the erased. You're the reminder, the proof that they couldn't kill what they couldn't understand. You didn't just survive, you shifted. And here's what's coming next. They're gonna circle back. Oh, they always do. The ones who left without warning. The ones who turned their backs mid-sentence. The ones who replaced you like you were some disposable fix. Yeah. They come back. But by then, you're no longer standing at the same door. You're not waiting, you're not available, you're not interested. And that's the real punishment. Not revenge, not drama. Just your absence where you used to be everything. Just your peace where they left chaos. Just your silence where they expected desperation. So keep building. Keep rising. Let them miss what they buried. Let them chase what they once ignored. And never ever explain your silence. Because when you become what they tried to destroy, that silence speaks volumes. You want to know what really burns them? It's not your anger. It's not your rage, your tears, your confrontation. Nah, that's what they want. They crave the show. They feed off your reaction like leeches, hoping you'll break character and give them a performance they can twist, judge, talk about. But silence is a different beast. It's surgical. It's violent without lifting a hand. It's the mirror they can't avoid, and the guilt they can't drown. When you go quiet, they start hearing their own words echo. They start seeing their own reflection, distorted, cracked, ugly. That's what they never planned for. You walking away with no fight left. Just that cold, terrifying stillness. That's when the panic sets in, because now you're unpredictable. Now you're not the hurt little puppy begging for closure. You're the ghost with unfinished business. And ghosts? They don't explain. They haunt. They sit there, scrolling through photos they swore they'd forget, rereading messages they never replied to, hearing your name in rooms you're no longer in. And suddenly, it's them, stuck in the past. Not you. You moved. You leveled up. Quietly. Smartly. They don't see the nights you bled in silence, the tears you buried, the nights you screamed into your pillow praying to feel anything again. But now they'll feel everything you did. That's the twist. They wanted to erase you to make space for someone else. But they ended up carving a space only you could ever fill. And nothing they stuff in that hole fits right anymore. You became the lesson they had to learn the hard way. The story they tell in whispers. The one that got away, but not because you ran. Because you grew beyond them. They remember your kindness, not as weakness, but as a luxury they'll never afford again. They remember your loyalty, not as dependency, but as a force they were too damn small to understand. You gave them presence, attention, energy, love, and they fumbled all of it, thinking you were just another face. But now, they realize you weren't just a chapter. You were the damn plot twist. They try to pretend they're fine, but it shows. It always does. In the way they scroll your profile, but never like a thing. In the way they laugh a little too loud with the new ones, hoping it'll drown the silence you left. In the way they say, "I'm better now," while their eyes betray everything they won't admit. That's the funny part about pretending. You can fool people, but you can't fool the mirror. And every mirror they stand in front of, that's where you show up. Not as a memory, but as a reminder, a scar, a consequence. And don't you dare feel guilty for walking away. Don't let the tears they cry now confuse you. Those tears aren't for you. They're for the control they lost. The version of you they'll never manipulate again. The comfort they can't recreate. You were rare, and they knew it. That's why they tried to own you, cage you, control you. Because something in you, your fire, your honesty, your intensity, it threatened the little fantasy they built around themselves. They didn't leave because you were wrong for them. They left because you were too right for a version of them that was too damn fake to grow up. But now you're no longer explaining yourself. You're not breaking down your loyalty in bite-sized pieces, hoping they'll finally understand. You've stopped being their teacher, their savior, their second chance. You've become a boundary, a locked door, a closed chapter with no reprints. And trust me, that stings. Because now they look back and realize everything they needed was already there, and they threw it away chasing sparks when they had fire. But the thing about fire, when it burns out, it doesn't come back the same. It comes back colder, controlled, dangerous. So walk on, with no apologies, no explanations, no pity. Let them carry the weight of your absence like a chain they forge themselves. Let them talk. Let them spin stories. Let them pretend they're healed. Because deep down, they know. They tried to erase you, but instead, they made you unforgettable. They always think you're replaceable, until the replacement starts glitching, until the conversations feel forced, the laughs don't hit the same, the comfort isn't there. That's when the realization cuts deeper than anything you could have said. Because it wasn't your face they missed, it was your presence. It wasn't your voice, it was the silence between your words. The way you knew them without them having to speak. The way you stayed when everyone else had an exit plan. See, most people, they crave attention. But you gave them understanding. And that doesn't come around twice. So now they sit there, staring at someone else, wishing it still felt like you. They tried to act like losing you was a step forward, like they outgrew you. That's the modern delusion, right? People treat loyalty like a phase. They call growth what's really just avoidance. But life has a nasty way of waking people up. And when it does, it doesn't knock. It wrecks. It shows them the difference between someone who loved them through their darkness and someone who only stays when the lights are on. And you were the one who stayed in the dark. You held it down. Even when it broke you, you gave love with no receipt, no invoice, no scoreboard. And they treated that as weakness until they found themselves surrounded by people who only show up for the benefits package. Now they see the cost, the price of mistaking something real for something replaceable, and it burns. But don't you soften. Don't you dare shrink back into that forgiving version of yourself. That part of you that always wanted to make peace. Fix it. Hold it together. Because this time, it's not your job to carry the weight of their decisions. You did your part. You gave. You stayed. You fought. And now you leave them to their silence. Let them drown in the noise of all the chances they'll never get again. Because here's the truth. Most people choke on. You can't unmeet someone like you. You can't forget the one who loved you at your lowest. You can't replace someone who was your calm in every storm. You can try. You can fake it. But your soul remembers. That's the cruel part. Their soul knows you. It whispers you. It aches when the new doesn't measure up. And trust me, it never does. Because when you give someone depth, everything else feels shallow. When you give someone real, everything else starts looking like a performance. And now, that's all they're surrounded by. Masks, empty laughs, dead eyes. You've become a standard now, an echo they can't silence, a presence they'll keep searching for in every room, every body, every moment, and never find again. That's your revenge, not anger, not confrontation. Just absence, just thriving where they thought you'd fall apart, smiling in places they swore you'd never reach without them. And the best part? You're not even trying to prove anything. You're just being. And that alone destroys every narrative they tried to paint of you. But don't get it twisted. They don't regret losing you because they suddenly grew a conscience. Number. They regret it because they realize they lost the one person who never asked them to be anything more than honest. And that kind of loss, it ages people. Slowly, quietly. Every birthday, every empty celebration, every fake "I'm doing fine," that's when your memory hits hardest. When they look around and realize none of it feels like you. So stay quiet. Stay focused. Don't double back. Don't answer that "I miss you" text. Don't get drunk on the fantasy of what could have been. Because the version of them you wanted never existed. You loved their potential, not their reality. You gave everything to an illusion. And now you're wide awake. So don't close your eyes again. Don't put your crown back in their hands. Don't light yourself on fire to warm people who dance around your ashes the second you collapse. No, keep building, quietly, coldly, because the more you grow, the more they'll realize just how far behind they truly are. You were never meant to be erased. You were meant to be remembered and regretted. They'll never say it out loud, but they feel it now, the void, the weight of what they lost, the silence where your name used to echo. That silence, it's not empty. It's loud. It screams. It presses against their chest when they try to sleep. It lingers in the mirror every morning, because regret doesn't always come dressed in tears. Sometimes it walks in with no expression, no warning, no noise, and stays. That's what you've become to them now. A permanent reminder. A shadow they cast on themselves. And here's the twisted part. They built that shadow with every lie, every dismissive smirk, every "you're too much" and "you're overthinking it." They crafted it like an artist sculpts a statue, thinking they were shaping control, not realizing they were carving their own guilt. You were the realest thing in their life, and they treated you like fiction, like some temporary character in a season they thought they'd outgrow. But truth doesn't get erased just because it's inconvenient. You gave them the blueprint, the roadmap, the unconditional version of love they'll never see again, and they ignored it, took it for granted, replaced it with surface-level copies and fast thrills. But now, every laugh feels hollow. Every new face reminds them of the one they drove away. Because it's easy to find someone to entertain you, but it's damn near impossible to find someone who understood your silence. You see, you didn't just walk away. You left with your peace, your energy, your light. And when you left, the entire frequency of their life shifted. Everything feels off now. Not because you took something, but because you were something. The balance, the calm in their chaos. The one person who listened without judgment, stayed without asking, gave without keeping score. And now they're looking for that same energy in people who only show up when it's convenient. But you were consistent. You were present. And now you're gone, and that's the lesson. But don't wait for the apology. It's not coming. Not because you weren't worth it, but because their ego won't allow it. Because to apologize to someone like you would be to admit they destroyed the only thing that ever truly cared about them. And that level of honesty, most people aren't built for it. They'd rather suffer silently in the mess they made than face the truth that they had everything and treated it like an option. So they'll paint you as the villain, the cold one, the changed one, just so they don't have to look in the mirror and admit what they did. And you don't need to defend yourself. Let them tell their stories. Let them twist the truth. Because people who matter, they'll see through it. And people who believe lies, they were never meant for your circle to begin with. Your job now isn't to clear your name. It's to protect your energy. You're no longer here to be understood. You're here to build, to grow in silence, to turn your pain into power. Every sleepless night, every unanswered question, every silent drive with 1,000 thoughts running through your head. It wasn't for nothing. That was the grind, the fire, the transformation. So when they look at you months from now, glowing, calm, unbothered, they'll wonder how you got there. They won't know the battles, the nights you talked yourself out of breaking, the mornings you faked strength just to make it through the day. But you'll know. You'll carry those scars like medals, not because you want pity, but because you earned your peace. And no one gets to take that away again. You're not cold now because you stopped caring. You're cold because you finally do, for yourself, for your peace, for your future. They tried to erase you and ended up erasing their own access to greatness. And the most painful part for them, watching you rise in silence, knowing they'll never be part of your story again. It's strange, isn't it? How the same people who broke you now want to study your strength. They ask around. They stalk in silence. They sit in corners of conversations hoping your name comes up. But they'll never admit they miss you. Pride won't let them. Ego's louder than truth in most people. So they'll pretend. Pretend you didn't matter. Pretend they're better now. Pretend that watching you become what they said you'd never be doesn't sting like acid in their throat. But that's all it is. Pretend. Because deep down, they know. You were the real deal. The light in a dark room. The calm in their chaos. The storm they thought they could contain. And now you're gone. And everything's dull. But let's talk about that strength, huh? Because they think you just got lucky. That you just woke up one day and moved on. What they don't see is the war you had with yourself. The nights you stared at the ceiling with questions that would never get answers. The way your chest ached from holding in everything you wanted to scream, the way you bit your tongue every time you saw them move on like you never existed. You bled in silence. You grieved without funerals. You buried feelings in places even you can't reach now. And still, you rose. You didn't just survive, you built, brick by broken brick. You turned every tear into cement, every betrayal into steel, and every "you're not enough" into fuel. You walked through hell with nothing but scars and stubbornness. And that made you dangerous. Not because you became cruel, but because you became untouchable. You no longer flinch when people walk away. You no longer explain your silence. You no longer beg to be seen. You see yourself now. And that's the most powerful weapon they never wanted you to find. They wanted you to stay broken, to stay small, to stay waiting for the text, the apology, the moment where they finally see your worth. But they underestimated you. They thought kindness was weakness, thought silence was surrender, thought losing you would hurt you more than it would hurt them. But here's the beautiful irony. They set the fire thinking it would consume you, and instead, you became the flame. Now every time they laugh, it's forced. Every time they smile, it's cracked. Because they know. They know they watched something sacred slip through their fingers while they chased illusions. And the worst part? They did it on purpose. Out of boredom. Out of pride. Out of the belief that you'd always be there. Arms open, heart exposed, ready to forgive. But you're not that version anymore. That version died the night you realized you deserve better. The night you looked in the mirror and decided, no more. And now, look at you. You're not perfect. No, but you're solid, grounded, unshakable. You don't trust easy anymore, and that's a good thing. You protect your peace, like a vault. You measure people by actions, not words. You speak less, observe more. You walk into rooms not to be liked, but to read who's fake. That's what pain teaches you. It sharpens you, matures you. It breaks the child in you that wanted to be loved by everyone, and rebuilds you into someone who only lets the deserving sit at your table. So let them miss you. Let them wonder. Let them sit in circles and guess why you disappeared. Don't correct them. Don't feed their curiosity. Your silence is your crown now. Your absence is your power. You were the lesson they refused to learn, so life will make sure they never forget you. They tried to erase you, and you became a memory they'll never outrun. You know what's funny? The same people who once had access to your heart now can't even reach your shadow. They had the front row seat to your soul, your raw, unfiltered loyalty, your depth, your fire, and they treated it like background noise. You were the type they write about in regret-filled texts at 2 a.m., but never send. The one they search for in every body, in every conversation, in every eye that doesn't look back the same. But the chapter's closed. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring for yourself. You stopped explaining your worth to people who were never listening. You stopped breaking yourself into pieces for people who would have let you shatter and stepped over the remains like nothing happened. And now that you've rebuilt, now that you've picked up every broken shard and turned it into armor, they're uncomfortable because you're not soft anymore. Not in the way they remember. You're still kind, still human, still deep. But now you come with conditions. Now your energy costs something. Now your presence has a price. And the ones who thought they'd always have access, they're bankrupt. That's the cost of betrayal. They don't just lose the version of you they hurt. They lose every future version you were evolving into. The one who was about to glow up. The one who would have loved them better than anyone else ever could. The one who would have stood beside them through hell. But they gambled. Thought you were bluffing. Thought they could bend your boundaries without breaking the bond. But what they didn't know was you were watching everything. Every forgotten call. Every switch in tone. Every fake laugh. Every delayed reply. Every smile meant for someone else. You didn't react. You noted. And when you walked away, you took everything with you. Now they try to play tough, pretend they don't care, post quotes, flash smiles, chase temporary highs, but nothing sticks. Because real connection doesn't get replaced by attention. It doesn't get outgrown in a week. It lingers. It haunts. In you, you were never just a chapter. You were the whole damn book. They just never bothered to read you right. They skimmed, rushed through the pages, laughed at the depth, and now they're holding torn up covers, wondering why the story feels unfinished. And here's the twist that always hits them late. You're not angry. You're indifferent. And indifference, that's lethal. It's the point where your name becomes a boundary, not a memory. Where they could walk into the same room and it'd be like they never existed. That's what growth looks like. Not slamming doors. Not shouting matches, not revenge, just emptiness, clean, cold, untouchable. Because when you've truly healed, when you've truly seen through the mask, there's nothing left to react to, nothing left to prove. You let them go with grace. You didn't drag their name. You didn't expose their lies. You didn't even wish them pain. You just disappeared. And now they feel it in the slow moments, in the quiet, in the gaps between fake friendships and forced intimacy. They remember the way your love felt safe, the way your presence felt like home. But it's gone, and homes don't wait forever. So let them watch. Let them study the success they never clapped for. Let them choke on the silence they begged for. You didn't become cold, you became clear. Clear about your worth. Clear about who's real. Clear about what you'll never tolerate again. And from that clarity, you built a life so private, so peaceful, so protected, they don't even know where to begin apologizing. But it's too late anyway. They tried to erase you, but you became the reason they'll never erase anyone again. You see, they didn't expect the silence to last this long. At first, they thought it was a phase, a little drama, a test. They figured you'd come crawling back, arms wide open, still wearing the same heart they broke, still hoping they'd finally get it right. That's the script they had in their heads, because that's how it always played out before, right? You were the forgiving one, the one who gave second, third, fourth chances, the one who never learned to lock the door even after they slammed it in your face. But this time you didn't just close the door. You built a wall behind it. No key, no explanation, just a permanent access denied. And now they're rattling at that wall, wondering what the hell happened, wondering when the switch flipped, when the soft one became steel, when the open hands became fists. But you know when it happened. It wasn't one big moment. It was 1,000 tiny ones. 1,000 times they made you feel like too much and not enough at the same time. 1,000 ways they showed you you'd never be a priority. 1,000 moments where you swallowed your own pain just to keep the peace. That's when the change started, quietly, slowly, until one day you looked at the love you were giving and realized none of it was coming back. And that's the heartbreak they never talk about. The kind that doesn't come with screaming or cheating or betrayal. The kind that's just quiet, day by day, as you watch someone you'd do anything for, do nothing for you. So, you stopped explaining. You stopped showing up. You stopped bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. And when you disappeared, you didn't announce it. You just left. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and by the time they noticed, you were already 10 steps into your healing, already halfway to the version of you that doesn't flinch when people walk away. Now look at them, chasing ghosts, trying to recreate the energy you gave for free. But what they don't understand is you weren't just a person. You were a whole experience. The way you listened, the way you remembered the little things, the way you loved people, even when they made it hard to. That's not replaceable. That's not downloadable. That's not something you just find again on a dating app or in a stranger's arms. That's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of love. And they threw it away like it was seasonal. But let them live with it. Let them learn. Because healing doesn't mean revenge. It means detachment. It means being so far gone from the chaos they created, they can't even reach your frequency anymore. And from that distance, you thrive. You learn to love your own company. You build new routines, new circles, new peace. You stop apologizing for being the one who cared too much in a world that values indifference. And every time they think of you, It burns. Not because you hurt them, but because you didn't come back. That's what hurts the most. Not the fight, not the fallout, but the nothing. The silence that stretches on like a punishment they handed themselves. And the worst part, they know they can't blame anyone but themselves. They did this with their pride, their games, their laziness, their inability to recognize something pure when it was in front of them. And now all they have left is a memory, one they'll replay over and over, wondering how they lost something so real, so rare, so solid. You were never erased, you were engraved. And now you live rent-free in the back of their mind, a ghost of what they'll never deserve again. And here's the part they never expected. The moment when you stopped needing them. That shift, that quiet shift inside you. That's what truly broke them. Because as long as you needed them, as long as you hoped, they still had control. You see, people like that don't care if they hurt you, as long as you stay. As long as you keep showing up with open arms and a wounded heart. As long as your eyes still search for them in a crowd. But the day you stopped checking their story, stopped hoping for their message, stopped wondering if they missed you, that was the day everything changed. For you and for them. They felt it. Oh, they felt it. You may not have said a word, but your energy said it all. You were done. Not angry. Not bitter. Just done. You stopped playing the game. You put the pieces back in the box and walked off the board. No announcements, no warnings. Just silence. And that silence screamed. And suddenly, they weren't so loud anymore. Suddenly, the same ones who told you to move on were quietly stalking your progress, watching your glow up, trying to decode your peace like it was some secret recipe. But what they don't realize is your peace came at a cost, a heavy one. Nights alone, conversations with yourself, pain that didn't make noise but left scars so deep. Even your smile had to learn how to fake it. But you paid that cost. You didn't just survive what they did, you transcended it. You didn't come out of it the same, and that's a good thing. Because now you walk different. You don't tolerate what you used to. You don't chase. You don't beg. You don't explain your worth to anyone. You've seen what it's like to pour everything into someone and watch them drink from your cup while they fed others. You've learned that love without reciprocity is just slow self-destruction. And now that you've seen that truth, you don't unsee it. You build around it. And while they're still looking for a version of you that's never coming back, you're building a life that no longer includes them. That's the part they choke on. Not that you left, but that you never looked back. They keep expecting some sign, some post some crack, some moment where you miss them enough to fold. But you've outgrown the version of you that lived for their validation. That person's gone, buried beneath every "I'll do better" that never came. Every breadcrumb they threw, hoping you'd stay hungry. Every time they made you feel like loving them was a flaw instead of a gift. And now you've become what they feared the most, unreachable. Not because you vanished, but because you healed. Healing made you quiet, but it made you sharp. You don't argue anymore because you've accepted that some people will lie just to keep from looking in the mirror. You don't react anymore because you've realized your silence has more power than their entire ego. You don't break anymore because the parts of you they shattered were never meant to survive in the next chapter anyway. So let them sit with their pride. Let them replay the moments you stayed, the times you forgave, the things you would have done for them. Let it sink in that they'll never find that again. Let every fake smile they post be a mask for the war inside. Because when they tried to erase you, what they really did was carve your name into their regrets. And the deeper you rise, the louder their silence becomes. That's how karma works. It doesn't always hit with thunder. Sometimes it just whispers, "Look what you lost." They tried to erase you. And instead they made you unforgettable. The tragedy? They can never reach you again.